welcome to Life's Just Cray. I'm Kate, and this is where we talk through real life situations that have you up until 2 a.m. talking with your bestie like, okay, but what would you do though? Real situations, real talk, no fluff. My grandma always said you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's exactly how I move on this show. Everything I say comes from my own experience, and I'm not a professional, but I'm also not here to tell you what to do. But it might help. We are talking extended family today, because family is everything until it's a little too much of everything.
I want to say clearly before anything else that my in-laws are not bad people. They are warm and generous, and they raised a man I love deeply, and they adore our children in a way that is genuinely beautiful to watch. I say all of that first because what I am about to describe could easily sound like I do not appreciate them or want them in our lives, and that is not the case at all. I just cannot keep performing that everything is fine between us when it has not felt fine for quite a long time. My mother-in-law calls my husband every single day without exception, often more than once. The calls are never brief. They cover the full scope of our lives, how his week is going at work, what we are planning for the weekend, how each of the kids is doing in school, what we are having for dinner, how he is feeling physically and emotionally, what has been on his mind. My husband does not see anything unusual or excessive about any of this, because for him, it is simply his mother, and this is how they have always communicated and always been with each other. What he genuinely cannot see from inside that dynamic is how it seeps into the texture of our home and our time together. Let me give you a specific example, because I think it explains things more honestly than me just describing a general pattern. My husband and I had set aside a full Saturday to spend just the two of us. No children, they were staying overnight at my parents'. We have not had a full uninterrupted day to ourselves in months, and we were both genuinely looking forward to it. We were about an hour into the morning, relaxed and actually present with each other in a way that had started to feel rare, when his phone rang. He looked at it and answered without a moment of hesitation. It was his mother. The call lasted 45 minutes. By the time it ended, the energy of the day had shifted completely and never fully came back to what it had been before that phone rang. When I tried to have a conversation about it that evening, he became immediately defensive and told me I was asking him to choose between his wife and his mother. I was not asking that. What I was saying was that I needed us to have some time that was protected, and that was ours. He could not hear it that way. I do not want to be the wife who creates damage between a man and his mother, but I also cannot keep feeling like a secondary priority in my own marriage. How do you hold a boundary with in-laws without your husband feeling like he has to choose?
Okay, I have to be real with you before I even get into the advice, because this hits close to home. Men and timing. I genuinely do not know what it is or where it comes from. And I cannot tell you if it's intentional or if there's something about the male brain that is completely incapable of recognizing the worst possible moment to make a phone call. What I can tell you from my own personal experience is that it does not matter what you change or plan around or rearrange, because someone is calling the exact moment you finally sit down to eat. Every single time without fail. You can move dinner to a completely different time, and somehow they would still find the exact moment. And I can't even explain the science behind this, but I can promise you with full certainty that you are absolutely not alone in experiencing it. And every woman listening right now is nodding along because they have their own version of this exact story. Now, let me get into what I actually think is happening here and where your energy needs to go, because I think you've been pointing it in the right direction, but maybe not at the right person. Now, you've talked to your husband about this multiple times, and every time he gets defensive. and he hears it as an attack on his relationship with his mother. And that's completely predictable, and honestly, very common male response to this kind of conversation. Not because he's a bad husband or doesn't love you deeply, but men often genuinely cannot make the connection between a phone call and emotional availability, and what the interruption of a protected moment actually costs the people sharing their lives with them. He looks back at that Saturday and thinks, I was present all day. I was right there the entire time. What's exactly the problem? He can't feel the shift the way that you felt it. And he doesn't register the energy of the day changing and the moment the call came in. And the day never went back to fully what it had already been. He knows he loves his wife, he loves his mom, and he can't figure out why those two things keep creating friction between them. Not that you and his mom are butting heads. So stop trying to make him understand something that he doesn't currently have the wiring to fully grasp in a way that you need him to. And that's not an insult to him. It's just an honest assessment of who you're working with and what approach is actually going to get you somewhere. Here's what I think you should seriously consider instead, though. Have you ever had a direct and honest woman-to-woman conversation with your mother-in-law? Not a message filtered through your husband, and not a request passed along secondhand either. Just you and her, genuine, warmth, honest, and direct. Because here's what I know about women, and what I know about mothers in particular. A woman's going to understand what you're saying in a way your husband simply can't access right now. And when you tell another woman that you and your husband barely get truly uninterrupted time together anymore, and those moments matter deeply to you, she's going to feel that in a real way. She's probably been there herself at some point in her own life. And I also want to ask you something, because the answer matters more than you might realize. What's the actual dynamic between your husband and his mother beyond the daily calls? Is she someone that he turns to for reassurance? Or is she an emotional anchor in some way that runs deeper than normal closeness? Because that context changes everything. A man who genuinely is enmeshed with his mother in a way that runs deep is completely different than a man who simply loves his mom and has never stopped thinking about how the daily calls land on the people who he shares his home with. Not every call has to be answered at the moment that it comes in, and not every conversation has to happen live. A lot of what gets covered in those daily check-ins could happen over a text. And a woman who raised a good son will understand when you tell her directly and kindly that protected time with her son matters to your marriage. Give her a chance to hear it from you first. She just might surprise you. Alrighty, loves. That's all I've got for you today, and you already know where to find me. Slide into the DMs with your situation, and you might just hear it on the next episode. And if this one hit home for you, share it with someone who needs it, because that is what we do. And remember, just because I've said this advice doesn't mean you have to take it. You're the maker of your own decisions, but you must also be willing to deal with the consequences of your actions if there are any. Until next time, take care of yourself.